So today, in a slight departure from my usual content, I'm driving a 2004 Mini Cooper S. Now, I was never a big fan of the original Mini. I've spent far too many uncomfortable journeys in the back of them as a child. And so when the Mini was relaunched by BMW, it stayed off my radar really. It was too small for a family car, which is what we needed at the time. And I thought it was really just an exercise in a fashion accessory for ladies of a certain age. That was until recently. During lockdown, we all watched a lot more television, and I started getting into the wheeler dealers. And the episode where they bought the Mini Cooper S GP40 and then performed the big 100,000 mile service that apparently horrifies all Mini owners because it includes the supercharger, my interest was piqued. I started doing some research during those long, dark lockdown days when we were all on the internet, and discovered that the Mini Cooper S Gen 1, the supercharged version, which is more commonly referred to as the R53, was a potent car in its day, and in fact the specs still hold up today. You've got a 1.6 supercharged engine, 170 horsepower, 60 coming up in 7 seconds, and keep your foot down long enough and apparently it'll do 138 miles an hour. Those are not bad specifications. That's a pretty good car. I was definitely interested enough to start looking on the internet for potential purchases. After a couple of weeks of searching, I came across this particular car. It stood out from a lot of the others that were available because it was straight, unmodified, pretty much as it had come out of the factory. A lot of the other cars out there have had some dubious modifications, and others are complete shitboxes, which their next destination is to be broken for parts. Or a track day car, I suppose. Anyway, we went to view this car, and like the description, it was straight. There's no rust on this car, and I've been all over it. It did have some issues. 91,000 miles meant that the big service was going to be due sooner rather than later. There was a knock from the front suspension, which is the wishbone bushes and the front anti-roll bar bushes, and you have to drop the subframe to replace those. Other than that, the engine had no smoke on overrun or when being driven or revving. There wasn't a big oily stain up the back of the car like you sometimes get. The exhaust smelt good. The owner had serviced the car, recently replaced the heater matrix, the battery, the exhaust. The rear brakes had been serviced. So he'd had a service on it only a month before. So he'd looked after it. He hadn't had it that long and needed to sell it because he needed a bigger car. Other service history was a little more sketchy. It had BMW service for the first 3 years of its life. I would imagine that's because the original owner bought a package that was available that gave free servicing for 3 years, I think it was. So that accounted for that. It continued to have BMW service for a couple of years after that. Then it all goes dark. I have no idea what happened to it between around 2008 and 2019. Checking the MOT record, it's never failed an MOT on anything other than tyres. There seemed to be a period of time, a long period of time, where it was failing on tyres every time it went for an MOT. So does that indicate it was driven hard? I don't know. It's had 5 owners, 6 now with us. There were some mechanical issues as well. The supercharger belt idler wheel had started to make a whine, and that did get worse and worse and worse over the first couple of weeks we had it. That was annoying. Boy, was that annoying. So we probably paid a little bit too much for it, but that's because it was a straight car with a few faults, but no warning lights, no electrical faults. It's of quite a high spec. The original owner ticked a lot of boxes for options. Heated seats, leather upholstery, chili pack, xenon lights, badge delete from the factory, so it doesn't say Cooper S or anything on the back. It's got the whatever they call it, this comfort pack. It's got the dark glass at the back, Harman Kardon stereo, which still works really well, and it's an awkward junction, this. And so we bought it with a view to bringing him back to life. So all the work has been done. How does a 16-year-old car drive? Well, it drives beautifully. It drives very much like a new car. It is so tight and taut and precise. The handling is excellent. With a wheel in each corner and a short wheelbase, it does change direction like a fly. It really does. The steering is beautifully weighted. It's got loads of feel. You know exactly where your front wheels are. What the hell are they doing? The chassis is superb. It really is good. The engine pulls strongly, lots of torque, nice spread of torque. From about 3,000 it starts coming on strong to about 5. The gear ratios, well chosen, 6 of them. On the motorway, on a longer journey, very comfortable, cruise all day. I returned 37.1 miles per gallon, which I was impressed with on a recent long journey. It's surprisingly practical. My wife has MS and uses a wheelchair, and we can get the wheelchair in the back with the seats down without a problem. The hatchback is a nice big area to get it in and out, and the large doors mean that it's surprisingly easy for her to get in and out. She finds the seats comfy. A slight bucket shape in them means that she doesn't slide about too much. So it's actually a really good little runabout. It's I mean, it is a toy for us, but it's an excellent little toy. What are the bad points? Well, you can probably tell one of them, which is it's a little bit crashy over poor road surfaces. And there's a lot of that in the UK. The roads are shocking. The dashboard can be a little bit creaky, but I'm not that bothered about that. There we go, you see that was a speed hump and it wasn't that brilliant. I know the brakes are sometimes criticised by people. I've bled these through and they seem perfectly alright for me. Maybe I'm just not as gung-ho as others, or maybe other people find their limits on the track. On the road I find the brakes fine. They've got lots of feel, which is good. The stereo, the Harman Kardon stereo, that is really good. And the air conditioning is the best on any car I have ever had. It's cold as soon as you've turned the key, put your safety belt on and put the car in gear. It's icy cold, and I've never had that on any other car. It always takes a minute for them to huff and puff on you with a bit of sort of warmth before they bring the temperature down. The heat is good as well. Of course, the temperatures that it says it's set at bear no relation whatsoever to any temperature that you're actually getting. All that means is the higher number means it goes warmer. It's not necessarily what it says. But then again, I find that the same with pretty much any car. What have we got next? Well, a few things to do. The bodywork mainly. Car of this age, just some little dents and scrapes which need doing, and annoyingly some arse reversed into the back of the car on the lower part of the bumper only weeks after we've had it. Pushed the bumper in a little bit and left some of their own blue paint. That was annoying. And the clear coat on the bonnet is in quite poor condition. It's quite obviously been resprayed and or at least re-clear coated at some stage in its life, possibly due to paint chips, I don't know, or maybe heat from the supercharger makes these suffer from poor clear coats, I don't know, but it's been done, and maybe they put it on when it was a little bit damp or a little bit dry or something, and it's not brilliant, it's a little bit flaky. So at some stage the clear coat will either have to be redone or the bonnet resprayed. Although the other day I did toy with the idea of maybe getting a carbon fibre effect wrap across the front of the bonnet. With a black car I thought that might look quite good. Let me have your opinions in the comments. So that's pretty much it for the Mini Cooper S. Currently, they're dirt cheap. The reputation for being difficult to work on and expensive and unreliable and that sort of thing seems to have worked against them to keep the prices down, but it does mean that you can get one, and if you're prepared to do the spannering yourself, and I think that's probably quite a big part of this, if you're prepared to do the spannering yourself, then you can get these up and running and keep them up and running really quite cheaply. The parts are plentiful. They're all over the internet. I found eBay to be the best place for me. It was easy, convenient, delivery was good, prices were good. I stayed away from stuff that was really cheap or didn't have a name, and I went for parts from Bosch, Mahler, Lemforder, Febby Bilstein, makes like that you know probably OEM for a lot of makes, including BMW Mini, I would imagine, a lot of the time. So I stuck with them. Prices are competitive, very competitive indeed. If you're going to start paying somebody to do them, it is going to be expensive.